Hey, everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio. How you doing? This episode of Fatso Radio and every episode of Fatso Radio is brought to you by Volpe Martial Arts. That's right, folks. Volpe Martial Arts is KW's, that's Kitchener and Waterloo's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido school. My brother, Sifu Adam, brings you lifelong passion, folks. He loves martial arts. We grew up taking Hapkido all through his life. He's been involved with it and he loves it. Check it out, Volpe Martial Arts, folks. I'm there as well. 3 days a week, 2 days a week. I'm trying to get there 3 days, trying to get there 4 days. We'll see. He's there, I think, 5 or 6 days a week. Check it out, Volpe Martial Arts. Folks, another Friday, episode number 137. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Tonight, I get into just kind of these 3 things that I've had on my mind lately, not really diet related at all. I have some questions about what we're allowed to question, what we're allowed to speak about. And I really want to encourage people to speak up, criticize things, but in an intelligent way, right? Criticize critically, scientifically, critically. Use your science, use your brain, use reason. That's what this episode is about. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. Share the love, share the love, share the love. If you want to be on the show, fatsoradio@gmail.com. If you want to be on the show, if it's diet related, let's talk. If it's not diet related, let's talk. Doesn't matter what it is. I want a show. I want to have a show where everybody's welcome to talk about whatever you want to talk about. If I find it interesting, I'm on the show. fatsoradio@gmail.com. Lily, take it away. Fatso Radio.
Fatso, the really good podcast show.
Fatso, a very first podcast show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio. How you doing? This episode of Fatso Radio and every episode of Fatso Radio is brought to you by Volpe Martial Arts. Folks, that's right. Volpe Martial Arts is KW's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido school. My brother, Sifu Adam Volpe, brings you his lifelong passion. Check it out, volpemartialarts.com. All right, folks, Fatso Radio, episode number 137. And again, welcome back to Fatso Radio. If this is your first time listening to Fatso Radio, watching Fatso Radio, welcome. My name is Carlo Volpe, and it is my pleasure to come to you each and every Friday, and tonight is no different, folks. September 17th. I'm not in the future yet. September 17th. It's a big weekend. It's a big week here in Canada. A big weekend. Election day is coming around the corner, September 20th. So more to come on that. What do I want to talk about today, folks? I want to talk about 3 things that it's been on my mind a lot lately. One of the things that's been on my mind is during COVID. It's just around freedoms and our being able to be our ability to just make our own medical decisions, which is something that it's always been our decision to do, and we've always had that freedom. And this is one of the things that's kind of been bothering me, among other things, of course. But I want to talk about the 3 things that we've not been able to either talk about or question or even really speak about in some circumstances. So I want to talk about that tonight. And the first thing is your medical opinion, right? Or your being scientific or medically skepticism or scientific skepticism. It's really had an attack on it, quite honestly. And in over the last couple of years, I don't know if it's 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. I'm sure it's progressively over the last 100 years, probably, right? But it seems like it's really ramped up over the last couple of years. The inability for the everyday Joe to be able to question things and it not be a terrible thing, right? So right now with COVID and even, last couple of years, it seems like, but really more with COVID, it seems like if you're questioning anything with COVID, you're a whack job, right? And I don't know where it started. It seemed, if I had to guess, it seemed to be coming around the same time as Trump, but also the same time as COVID. So it almost, I'm guessing maybe it's the perfect storm, when Trump started saying things that certain people didn't like, certain people did like, but at the same time, if they didn't like that, and the crisis came with COVID, and it was a good time to kind of, I don't know if it was a coordinated thing, I don't know if it was not coordinated, but it seems like it was just a good time to kind of attack liberties, right? And excuse me, just need a drink there, but attack liberties, but attack critical thinking. And that's what's really bothered me a lot is in the past, if your idea or if the mainstream idea even was challenged, that's okay. Let's have a challenge. And then if it was a ridiculous challenge, you should have been able to be stifled from, or not even stifled, but you should have been able to be either corrected if you need to be corrected, or if the idea was good enough, it would have merit and it would carry weight in a conversation or an argument, just like it should today. But it seems like it's, especially during COVID and especially during the time of Trump now, we have not been able to have the freedom to do that. And I think social media is a big part of it, of course. During the pandemic and at the start of the pandemic, social media teams up with government. They get together to say what are the messages they want to filter out, maybe what are the messages they want to keep. And I understand why. I think I understand the intention behind it. I don't understand the great intention because I don't know the great intention, but I think I understand maybe what possibly that their intention would be. And it's to, the betterment of good, everybody, right? Because they want to protect certain people and they want to protect certain people from misinformation. But in reality, we've never been have to be protected so much by misinformation like they see we need to be today. And quite honestly, I don't think we need to be protected from this misinformation as much as they are protecting us. So much so that it's a deliberate act, in my opinion, to combat people questioning stuff. Listen, like what you're trying to tell me, if it's a good message and if it's a true message and if it's an honest message and if it's just a valid message that's scientifically true, you wouldn't need to lie as much. You wouldn't need to push it as much. You don't need to coerce people, right? And it would stand up to scrutiny. That's the thing about science. Science stands up to scrutiny, but it doesn't mean that science can't be scrutinized. That's exactly what it means, that it can be scrutinized and it's supposed to be scrutinized. It's supposed to be questioned. And if you think, and this is, maybe that's not the angle that I thought I was going to go through, but this is what I want to go. It really bothers me when I hear people say, if you're not a scientist, don't say this. If you're not a doctor, don't think this, or you shouldn't have an opinion on this, or you shouldn't voice your opinion on that. Or if you're not a researcher, then you shouldn't say this. And a part of that, I understand the intention. I think I understand the intention behind that. And the intention is probably, if you don't know anything about anything, don't say anything. Sure, right. I understand if you're not an expert in a certain field, don't speak on that field. And I don't think that's actually very scientific, right? Now, I understand you shouldn't speak on an authority in that field if you're not an expert. That makes complete sense to me. But it doesn't mean you can't speak on a field. It doesn't mean you shouldn't think on that field. It doesn't mean you shouldn't apply critical thinking to that field. In fact, that's the opposite. If anybody thinks that the science is settled on anything, right, and the science cannot be scrutinized and criticized anymore, and we cannot learn from today's science anymore, then they're wrong. Then they're not scientific. And it's not very scientific for you to think, or for anybody to think for that matter, that only a certain type of person can have a critical thought, or only a certain type of person can apply an argument to a certain situation or a certain solution. That's not how science works. It's not only these guys or gals that are in this row. It's not how it works. It's ideas that have merit, right? It's ideas that have value. And when you apply those ideas and you can fix solutions or whatever, you test things out. And that's the scientific process. Have a theory, test out that theory. Have a hypothesis, test it out, see if it works. It's testable. If it's not testable, it's not very scientific. And and theories are one thing, sure, but you shouldn't push policies on ideas and theories when they're not tested out. And things that are tested out, let's use that. And that's the idea of what I'm talking about when it's called questioning science, right? And questioning the narrative of what's going on today. Oftentimes during COVID, I've thought, like, what the hell? Why are we forgetting all this other stuff that we've learned? These basic sciences or the basic tenets of illness, basic tenets of disease, things like inflammation and things like, comorbidities, things like other things that are causing people to be ill or that are adding to someone's illness, right? Comorbidities, they're cooperating or they're contributing to someone's illness. And oftentimes those things just got kind of thrown out the window over the last year or so, or 2 years, it seems like, the weight of things like, your obesity or your obesity level, your weight level, your healthy weight level, whether your blood sugar is in check or not, whether you go outside and exercise, whether you get fresh air, whether you walk, whether you get vitamin D, whether you eat a good diet. Those are factors, such big factors in everyday life and everyday health. Especially you would just think, anybody would think that those would be especially valuable, even amplified more the value of that during a pandemic, during times of stress, during times of famine, during times of political time, anytime you need to rely on your health, right? It doesn't make sense to say that the value of your diet or the value or the emphasis on all of these factors that contribute to your health would then have more value. of course they would have more value. So I think it's valuable to question things, it's valuable to criticize things, but in a way that's constructive. All right, of course, no one's going to say, I hope no one's going to say it's valuable just to criticize and like no ideas or no suggestions, no recommendations or anything, just say, shit on it, whatever. And that's not what I mean. But I do think that we've really shied against it, or really shied away from it. And I think that we should still talk about it, but talk about the acceptance of critical thinking. Let's talk about why it's okay. And not only why is it okay to question science, but it's essential to question science, because that's how science is made. That's how science is figured out here. And that's the definition of science. That's what I'm trying to get at, I guess. Okay. The second thing I want to talk about is that we've had it seems like we've not only aren't able to talk about it, but it's a very hot topic. And it's such a hot topic that it seems like a lot of people are afraid to talk about it. And one of the things it's just gender issues in general, right? Gender issues as far as the transgender movement, but gender issues as far as just male versus female issues. I feel like, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but it doesn't matter, because you can't. How do you get someone in trouble who whatever, can't cancel someone who's not, you can't cancel me. Anyway, the idea is, so where I want to say about biological differences, right? There's the argument out there that there's no difference between men or women. And I'm not saying I'm never going to say that there's men are greater than women, or women are greater than men, because that's not the case. They're very different. I think that we're so different, but I want to celebrate our differences, and our differences is what make us as a species, right? Humans is what makes us strong. It was what's kept us strong. I really do believe it's what kept us strong and will keep us strong for years and generations to come, is the male and female, right? The duality, the difference between the male and female, because together we make the family. And I want to emphasize, I don't want to talk about whether maybe I'll get into it, but I don't necessarily about laws or anything like that. I mean, because there's a whole lot of stuff to talk about that, but I just want to talk about the idea that I worry that we're taking away from the man. I worry that we're taking away from the woman, right? The actual, not only just the definition of a man or definition of a woman, but what a traditional masculine values or traditional masculine characteristics or whatever, outside the box, yes, always going to apply, and there's a spectrum, I understand that, but that paired with traditional, or even definition wise, biology wise definition of a woman, because it's essential to point out not the differences because to say they're different, but the differences to say how they're so unique and how they work together. And there are some major biological differences that are important. I mean, quite simply, women have babies and men don't, right? Like it's true, women have babies and men don't. They're not called birthers, right? You can call them whatever you want, but they're women. And if a man is a man biologically, and he decides to become a woman through operations, through hormones, through medical process, right? He's not gonna have a woman, he's not gonna have a baby, right? So should I call that person that's trying to have a baby, or that would like to have a baby, a birther, or an unsuccessful birther? No, he's not going to be a mother. It's just what it is, right? And a mother is someone who can have a baby. And not even all women are fortunate enough, or not even all women, not only fortunate enough, or if it is their choice, or not always decide to do it if it is their choice, you know what I mean? Or regardless. But so it's not just woman equals mother. No, not all women. Some women equal mother. A lot of women equal another mother, but not all women, right? And a lot of women are aunts, and a lot of women, you know what I mean, are all women are daughters. And the whole idea is that it seems oftentimes to me, I translate it, I understand it as, or I ingest it as, it's watering down it. I don't think that the trans movement, where we're talking about, maybe it's not the trans movement, sorry, but the gender. I think the discussion of the gender, or discussion where it's talking about, removing the differences or between men and women, or saying there's no differences between men and women. I think that doesn't help men or women. And I don't think it helps anybody in the trans community either, because I think the best thing for anybody in the trans community is just to, if acceptance is something that anybody wants, then that's okay. But also just support and love is the best thing for that person, and just community, right? And then whatever happens as far as next course in life. But I guess my point is that, like, I don't think that we need to label people or create a group of people or keep on categorizing and keep on segmenting and keep on marginalizing. And I think that's what it is. I think it's marginalizing people. It's not, I don't think that I'm not trying to accept people. I think I want to accept people so much, and I want to love people so much that I don't think that we should be, I guess that we shouldn't be making it more complicated. But that at the same time, maybe I'm complicating the discussion by saying, well, what's your solution then? Okay. My solution, I think, as far as the discussion of being able to talk about men and women issues, I think we should be able to talk about it. Rightfully so. I think if there's a man issue, a men's health issue, we should talk about it. We should call it a men's health issue. If it's a prostate issue, if it's a testicular cancer issue, if it's a penile cancer issue, whatever it is, not even if it's a cancer issue, if it's erectile dysfunction, or if it's a men trying to get having babies, or whatever the issue, that's obviously a male issue, right? And a potential father issue. It's a male issue. Same with female issues. It's not. And the idea of having a woman's issue and not call it a woman's issue because not only women have babies. Yes. Yep. Only women have babies. That's just that, right? So if it's the idea of, like, not calling them a woman or not calling them mother, I think the idea was maybe don't say mothers, because not only women have babies. Yeah, that's it. They're mothers. Yeah. So the discussion's over. The other thing too is, like, I feel like a lot of people are so unsure or are afraid to talk about their feelings about the trans sports athletes, right? The trans athletes in sports, and it's a touchy subject for a lot of people. And I know it's a touchy subject. The most recent example I've seen was the MMA fighter. So born a male, transitioned to a female, and there was a fight a couple days ago, I guess. And I saw the fight. Actually, it was a very kind of a short fight, but a lot of MMA fights are short, right? It didn't look brutal by any means, but it was someone who was a man, previously a man, and now a female fighting another female, right? So let's remember that it's not. Let's remember that there are adults. People consented to this. I don't think there's no breaking any laws, and there's definitely no coercions involved. I mean, assuming no coercions and all that stuff. But the bottom line is that a lot of people are feeling like a man fought a woman, which is okay, because men can agree to fight a woman, and if the woman agrees and all that stuff in the ring and everything. But people are thinking that it's just not fair, right? It's just not fair. So I don't know how I feel about it. I know how I feel. I do know how I feel. I'm not sure if I know what the best direction is for sports, because I'm not sure on that regard. But I know how I feel sometimes as far as it not being completely fair. I do feel that way. But I don't know where the line is. I don't know if you've been a man for 30 years and then you transition to a female at 35 years of age, like, is that too many years as a man to be fair enough to compete against a woman? I don't know. Or if you transition at 17. Is it more fair because you have less? I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I mean, this fighter, I watched a bit of the fighter's transition or her story, sorry, and yeah, I mean, from a human standpoint, I'm trying to understand. I think I understand the idea of how difficult it would be for sure. I could only imagine, but how of course the love of the sport would apply, and she wants to fight, and she does fight, she trains, and she's an athlete and all that stuff. My God, trains way more than me, way more talented than me, hands down for that, sister, brother, for sure, right? Like, you're a talented person, and you're that's awesome. Now, the big question is, how do I feel about you, someone who wasn't male, then is a female, fighting someone who is a female? I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. My one of my feelings is, I don't know. It seems like it's but I'll be honest with me. I'm not perfect, right? So I'm going to say things that's wrong, or I'm going to feel things that's not going to be accepted by everybody. And shit on me if you want. 100%, I'm to blame. But like, some part of me feels like, well, it feels like it's a man fighting a woman, but part of me is like, well, no, it's not a man fighting a woman. It's a woman fighting a woman, right? And then the other part of me is like, well, even if it is a man fighting a woman, that's okay, because the professionals are okay to it, right? I'm sure there's been mixed fights in the past. Okay, but then the other question is, well, if it is a male, if someone's going to call it a male fight and a female, then you should just label it as a male fight and call it female. But it's not, right? This person is not a male, and they're not saying that they're a male. So it's not my right to call someone something that they're not saying that they are. But then the other question is, what about biologically, right? And biologically, what makes, like, no, biologically, I don't believe. I mean, at what point does your biology change? And that's going to be the question forever, right? If you're born a male and you're a male body, and you transition as far as, I mean, whether it's surgeries or hormones, like, you're still the same person, right? And you're still, whether you're, because you're born, a certain gender, you're still that same gender essentially that you've been born. So the biological question is, can you change your gender? Well, no, you really can't. Biologically, scientifically, you can't. You can legally change your gender. So that's just a big question. But I think we should just be honest about it. And I think people are being, and maybe that's why it's not, wow, maybe I just went full circle on that one. Maybe that's why it's not as big of an issue. Or maybe that's not why on everybody's radar, because most people are just okay with it, maybe, or they're not sure how they feel about it and they don't feel strong enough against it. Maybe that's how I feel too. I don't know how strong I feel against it. I think it would apply. Maybe if it applies to me, maybe if it hits home a little bit more, maybe if my daughters are in sports 10 years later, down the road, and if, I'm sure it will be a factor, but is that selfish of me? Is that, should we live in a world that things should change? And yeah, I do live in a world that things should change. So I don't know the answer to that. But I know that it seems like it's not fair in my mind and in my gut. But again, I grew up with a completely different understanding. And I still feel the same way biologically, but I'm not sure about policy, right? And that's, yeah. Okay, number 3. The next thing I want to talk about is religion. We've been hearing so much over the last, I've heard over the last 20 years, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, but religion especially, don't talk about it. And it's so interesting that I myself have definitely had a recent interest in religion. I've always been interested in religion from what I would consider an intellectual standpoint. As little as intellect I probably applied to it, I always tried to look at it from an intellectual standpoint. And it's funny because I always looked at it from the idea that, well, I don't feel anything. I don't feel this connection, or I don't feel the spiritualness that you're supposed to feel. So I'm just going to try and look at it with an open mind. And that's kind of how I thought about it for a long time. But I didn't think about it for a long time. And I was actually against it for a while. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with everybody, I was against it. And at some point I was even sure I was an atheist. Probably not very long that I was sure I was an atheist, but I definitely questioned it for a long time. And it's quite honestly because many reasons, but one of the reasons is that I didn't have the answers. I was sure that nobody I saw had the answers. And I still don't think that anybody has the answers. But the biggest reason is probably that I was looking for answers that I thought you would get. And I'm starting to think now that it's a whole other way of getting answers, or it's a way other way of getting understanding, and it's an understanding that you're going to see through things. So I'm assuming now, or I'm starting to think that if you enter a religious path, or if you enter a religious practice like meditation or like any sort of spiritual path, the religion, I think, will unfold for you, or you will unfold yourself in the religion's way, or through the religion, or maybe through prayers, or through scripture reading, or through investigation. I think religion is there to help you understand yourself and help guide you through this world, but really help guide you through yourself through this world, right? Like, not just how to navigate the world because the world is like this. I think it's more like how to navigate yourself when the world treats you like this, or when the world throws you like this, throws you this angle. And I think that we haven't talked about religion as a society as much over the years, right? We've talked about it less. We've spent less time in churches, less time in synagogues, less time in mosques. I mean, some religions, of course, have grown over the last few decades, but a lot of them have shrunk in a lot of different areas. In the US, in Canada, Christianity is not the same as it used to be, but in other pockets it's growing. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think that during this pandemic, it's definitely shown me, or it's sparked a a different kind of investigation into religion for me, a different kind of investigation as far as I'm not searching for answers. That's the thing. I'm not searching for answers in religion now. I'm looking at religion to see, not even look. I'm kind of just using, not using it, but yeah, I guess I'm experiencing it with through the eyes of religion. I'm trying to experience things through the eyes of this of religion, and in my case, Christianity, Catholicism. That's my kind of my background, and that's the easiest, not the easiest, but it's the most comforting way for me, or the kind of the easiest introduction to me back, and it's very comfortable. It's like it's comforting, but it's also very familiar to me. But that I don't know if I'm even trying to say. I mean, if I'm saying this right, but I'm kind of seeing it through the eyes a little bit more of through a religious lens. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Not through a religious lens in the way of saying I'm going to try and live my life by the religious code per se. Mind you, I basically probably do anyway. Most of my values are Christian values, or Western Christian values, which are shared by not just the West and not just Christians. So, but I'm reading a little bit more, right? I'm open to interpretations. A lot of the stories that I've heard over the years through the Bible or through New Testament, Old Testament, through the the Quran or the Torah, different religions. I've always been interested in it from an intellectual standpoint, but now I'm kind of interested in it from still an intellectual standpoint, but really from the lessons now, really from the stories, really from what was the perspective. I'm trying to put myself in certain people's shoes, and I'm trying to put myself in the time shoes, of these lessons. And I'm seeing over the last couple of weeks, I've gone to church over the last couple of weeks. I've gone to a Ukrainian Catholic church 2 weeks ago. I went to a Roman Catholic church last weekend, and this weekend coming up, I'm probably going to go to another Roman Catholic church. Last weekend it was a Spanish Catholic church. Trying to think, Our Lady of Guadalupe. A couple weeks ago, it was Saint Mary's, maybe. Yeah, I want to say St. Mary's. Sorry. No, it was Ukrainian Catholic Church of the Transfiguration, I believe. Yes, that's the name of it. Anyway, beautiful churches, absolutely beautiful churches. And I've been thinking about religion. I've been reflecting. I've been thinking about what religion means to me, but also I've been thinking about why I was so hard on religion, and I've been questioning why I've been so hard on religion. And I understand there's some things about religion that are not good, and things about people that have in religious ways, many things, right, that are not necessarily good, and that are absolutely bad. And there's been crimes called in the name of religion, crimes done in the name of religion, crimes shouted for, so I get all of that. I get all the contempt for a lot of religions, and I get the pain that's been directed, and anger. I 100% get that. But I also see the overwhelming love that comes from religion, the comparable, right? The overwhelming joy and peace that comes from religion, comparable to the hate and destruction. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be talked about, and it needs to be people, I think, need to be reminded on why church was so valuable to people. One of the many reasons, again, right? It's not, I don't have the reason. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, I'm definitely not a theologist, or whatever. Is theologist that is? A theological expert? Obviously not. I don't even know how to say it. But what I'm telling you is that I'm starting to really think about the value in our everyday community, in our everyday life, and the spiritual value, of course, right? But even if it's not a spiritual value, I think that the spiritual value itself is more complex than just a traditional kind of a spiritual idea, or an idea of a relationship with God, or anything like that. I think it's more complex than that. I think it's community based. I think it's family based. I think it's it's moral based too, right? It's having shared common morals, and that's a point that I kind of want to make sure as well, is that what religion did was that what church did, for example, and you can use the term church for anything, right? Synagogue or a mosque, or whatever. The meeting place once a week where you meet spiritually, and it's not just Western religions, any religion, right? The value of that for me is that it's a shared space, right? A shared common space where people have shared common values, right? Outside of work, so there's no monetary risk, or there's no monetary pressure, there's no financial pressure when it comes to going to church, right? Or there shouldn't be, at least. You're there because you're going there for that intention, where it's your free will. You're going there. You're going there to play. You're going there to reflect. You're going there, whatever, because your mother asked you. That doesn't matter, but it's not because it's a work obligation, right? And it's not, and it's something aside from the government. It's separate from the government. That's so valuable. I'm seeing how valuable it is today. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing how valuable it is every single day now, because it's like I said, especially during lockdowns, especially when they're telling people that you can't go to church. Whoa, hey, I'm not a fool to say, make me, I'm going to think about something once you deny me. But of course, that's human nature. So I'm not saying that it's only valuable because you've said don't go to church, but now you've made me really evaluate this. Now you made me really reevaluate how valuable church is, not just to me, but to everybody. Hey, I'm not nearly as religious and not nearly as spiritual as a lot of people around me, not nearly as religious or spiritual or dedicated or practicing or whatever you want to call it, as most people have got to go to church. But I went, and like, they welcomed me. I've never been to any of these two churches in my life. I've been in Kitchener for 15 years, and I went to both these churches, and both of these churches welcomed me. And this is what churches do, folks. It's not a horrible place. And I don't think that anybody's necessarily said that they're horrible places, but they're wonderful places. I think people need to talk about that a little bit more. The religion's been attacked on, for sure. I mean, Christianity, Catholicism, all the religions have been attacked because people attach them to horrible acts, whether it's terrible, harmful acts that happen, sexual misconducts, or if a certain religion is attached to terrorism. Hey, they're absolutely both terrible acts, right? And there's death and pain and all that stuff associated, but that's not what the core of religion is, and that's not the intention of it. It's the opposite of what the intention of all the religions are. So this pandemic and this COVID, it's really made me rethink and reevaluate and going, wait a second, like, we need this, and not, yes, we need the spiritual side, because I'm starting to really appreciate, well, not we need it, but that spiritual side is valuable. And if you do partake in that spirituality, or if you do partake in the religious aspect of it, and if it is valuable to you, no one can take that away from you. No one should take that away from you, whatever it is. A time to reflect or a practice of reflection. Could be meditation, could be spirituality, yoga practice, could be your religious practice, where it's a betterment for you. It's good for you and your family and your community. It's good for your body, it's good for your mind, good for your spirit or soul, or however you want to identify it, right? That's what it is. And that, man, that's so important. My goodness, that is so important. And that's so more important now to me than it ever has been. And maybe it's been COVID, sure. Maybe it's COVID that brought it out, and so be it. And maybe it's all the other stuff with the political stuff and Trump this and all this stuff and Biden this, and now in Canada, the election's coming up. I want to talk about that. But it's like anything else, right? When you have medical issues come up, or life-changing issues, accidents or tragedies or whatever it is, sometimes it makes you evaluate things. And this is one of those times as well. And this isn't the first time I've thought about religion. Of course, I've thought about religion many times in my life, growing up Catholic, right? A lot of my times thinking about religion I don't feel great about them. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's been times where I was very hard on religions. I was very hard on the religion that I grew up with. I was very hard on people. I was very critical when I was younger. I was very naive. Not naive. I was naive, yes, but I was very critical. I was very impatient, very intolerant to certain ideas, right? When you think you know something, you don't realize you don't know shit, but you think you know it. Sometimes other ideas seem like idiot ideas to you. And when you're young and you're inexperienced, and when you don't have the wisdom, right? That's what it is. When you don't have the wisdom to handle something you don't understand, oftentimes you can just be an asshole about it. And that's, I mean, like, I'm to blame for that. And I'm sure other people are to blame for it. I'm not the only one. But, I have to come clean with it. And I am. And it's not hard for me to say that, because we grow and we learn. And I had a great talk with my buddy Scotty the other day. And Scotty, I love you. I hope you're watching this. And I don't want to go into great detail, but, me and Scotty, we always have these 2 or 3 hour discussions. We always go heart to heart, and we always crying half a dozen times. Probably why I always cry. He doesn't cry as much as me, but and he brought up a bunch of stuff, and I brought up a bunch of stuff, but it was a good connection. I mean, I've had this connection with Scotty my whole life, ever since we're kids, but we've had this connection where I was sharing with him, that I am looking to looking and being open to spirituality and to religion more, and going to the church more, and I'm open to it, right? I mean, I'm still a science. That's a thing. It's not like I'm not scientific. I'm still, if I'm an analytical thinker, if I'm a logical thinker, I'm still an analytical thinker, still a logical thinker, and I'm still a critical thinker, right? And what I'm finding is that if you do something and you're having and you're benefiting from this thing, you can still criticize, you can still unpack it, you can still unwrap it. But if you do unwrap it and I guess what I'm trying to get is that I think you lose a lot of the beauty in something when you do investigate it too much. And I think that I investigated things so much when I was younger, and I lost all the beauty in it, and I lost all the purpose in it because I was solely looking for an end answer. I was especially religion. I was solely looking for an end answer for every single question I had about religion. Well, if you think about this, what is this? If this is heaven and this is hell and this is right or wrong, and God is supposed to do this and he has power over you, but he doesn't have power over you. Like, if you're looking for answers like that, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think any religion is going to give you answers like that. But if you're going to look into religion, and if you're going to use religion or invest in religion, this is just my opinion, right? If you're going to do it as a guide, or as a guide stones or guide books, or like stories and morals to understand the world and to help you figure out yourself within this world, then absolutely, I think that completely makes sense. And it seems like it is a historic kind of a guidance book. Hey, like any other manual you've ever written or ever not written but read, I guess, or try to follow along, there's going to be mistakes and there's things that get lost in translation, I'm sure. But the stories, and I'm trying to think of, every time I've been hearing these stories lately, whether they're Bible stories, New Testament or Old Testament, or whether they're from the Quran or any other kind of thing, lately I've been hearing them, and they've been resonating with me. What's been resonating the most with me are things around trusting and loving your neighbor. Like, hey, I grew up Christian, I grew up Catholic, right? So loving your neighbor, treating your neighbor how you want to be treated. Things like turning the other cheek. Like, turning the other cheek, are you kidding me? Like, I don't want to preach right now, but when is the last time you felt like anybody's turned the other cheek? People getting canceled on the spot, people getting ridiculed for making mistakes, people unable to say, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Right? That's what turning the other cheek also would mean, right? Having tolerance. And if somebody wrongs you, hey, it's not the end of the world. Yes, tell them. Yes, ask them. Yes, investigate, communicate, whatever the case. But like, and then the golden rule. This is the golden rule is like the best, right? It's the best, because I don't think that you can't have anybody dispute this. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. You want to be treated with respect? Respect somebody else. Right? That's just perfect. And it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. It's not complicated to do. It's difficult at times because life is difficult, right? And we all have these struggles, and we all have these trials and tribulations. Like, as if another thing I was talking to Scotty about, and again, I'm not gonna have an episode just on religion, but the Christian idea of carrying your cross, right? And the Christian idea of, or the Catholic idea of you having a cross. I think just the Christian idea, of course, but and often people say, and I don't know if I said this on another episode, but often people say that, I don't understand why in Catholicism or in Christianity that, we have to carry our cross, and what it is, our cross is our burden. We have many crosses in life, I believe. But oftentimes people say or question, well, why does God give us this cross, or God give us this burden? And I heard this great homily from a priest. I can't remember what it was, but one of the priests said, well, it's not God. I think last week's priest said, it's not God that gives you this cross, and it's not God who imposes the challenges and the tribulations on life with you, but it's just life that gives you the cross. And it's our duty to take up our own cross. What are our challenges? What are our struggles in life? And everybody has challenges, right? Everybody has struggles, and they're all unique and they're all difficult, but we all have them, right? So the idea that and I just like that idea, because not that it deflects the responsibility that God gave us, if you believe in God, that God gave us the challenges, but it's to me, it's just really more practical, because it does make sense. It's like, well, everybody in life has trials and tribulations. Everybody has struggles. Everybody has to feed themselves or shelter themselves or provide for, other people. So the idea that during the course of life, a hurdle, a lost job or a sickness, everybody has that. And that may be our cross, right? And maybe you need to carry this one cross. And I may be wrong, right? I'm not an expert. I'm probably wrong. But maybe this cross I have for 5 years, and then that cross, I don't carry that cross anymore. I have to pick up another cross, right? Or maybe I think that's what it is, and I think you can use the term the cross to and that you can analyze that, or sorry, make that an analogy with many other things in life, and probably other the religions as well. Is that it's just like suffering, the idea that there's always suffering in life, and you can't avoid suffering. It's the idea maybe that the suffering is your cross, and you have to carry that cross. So anyway, I think it's good to talk about religion. Maybe I'll be talking about religion. Maybe I'll have some Sunday religion, Fatso Sunday service or something like that. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy. If you think I'm crazy, it's okay. It's okay. I'll still sleep at night. But I want to know if you think I'm crazy. Let me know what you think about this whole thing. Let me know if you what you think. If you think it is good to talk about religion, maybe we need to talk about religion. Maybe in a different way. Maybe in a way where we have maybe a little bit more of an adult conversation with the world. And I know that sounds really weird, but with religion, a lot of times people complain, and a lot of the criticisms of religion is that religion treats people like children. Sometimes people criticize religion for that, and maybe they feel that way because a lot of the aspects of religion, or a lot of parts of religion, don't feel like people get their questions that they want, or the answers they want, quite honestly. But maybe the truth is that answers are hard to find because the questions are really hard to formulate. I think that's what it is. And as you go through life, you realize that things are complicated, and what maybe you thought would have been an easy answer when you were younger, right? Like maybe I had an answer about life. Oh my God, what should I do? I have a broken heart. I broke up with my girlfriend. What should I do? And if you turn to religion for an answer, maybe return to someone, maybe if you've done that in the past and you haven't found an answer, that could easily, kind of say, well, where am I going to go? Right? God didn't give me an answer. My religion didn't give me an answer. I'm not saying this happened, but it could easily have happened. And I know I turned either to religion, attempted to turn to religion, or for a day or for a couple of days, or whatever, when I was younger. And I never really had any answers. And I still don't have any answers. But like I said, I think part of this process of learning, and part of what comes with what we call maybe wisdom, and I'm not saying that I'm wise, but is that what you're looking for, maybe it needs to change, right? And if what you're looking for is changing, then what you're going to find is changing, of course. That's just how life works, right? I mean, that's it. The last thing is politics. Of course, this is time for politics. This is the time of the day, time of the year. Justin Trudeau in Canada called an election. We're going to have an election. It's coming in 3 days, folks. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. If you're in Canada, if you're an American and you have a Canadian friend, email them. Email them. Who uses email? Message them, folks. Let them know it's time to vote. It's time to vote. It's time to vote. It's time to get Trudeau out. I'm sorry. It's time to get Trudeau out. I'm a big fan of the PPC right now. Maybe I'll regret it. I don't know, but that's like politics, right? That's like, and that's just life. I'm older I get, the more I value the conservative values, the more I realize that conservative values aren't stick in the mud values. I realize you can be a comedian and be a conservative. You can be, you can like the pleasures of life, right, and still be a conservative. But you can also want to conserve your values and your way of life, right, and your not way of life as far as what you do for a living, but way of life as far as what you think are dear in your society, right? You need a safe society. You want a free society, and that's really important. So get out and vote. And if you're in Canada, vote. If you're not in Canada, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Anyway, thanks for your subscription, folks. Thanks for your likes and your shares. Go and share the world, share the word, share the love. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening and watching Fatso Radio. Like I said, folks, it's not always about diet. Today's episode, nothing about diet. Not really. I don't think anything. No, not really. Nothing about diet at all. But it is important to eat well. Don't eat shit. Don't drink shitty food. Don't put shit in your mouth. Don't put shit in your body. And if you do, try and stop. Try and balance it. Try and work with your family, work with your community, with your friends, work with me on ways to make your life healthier, right? And to get healthier. We all have. I mean, that's one of the things in life, folks, if I can end this on, once you realize and really, really believe that everybody has issues. Everybody has issues. Everybody has issues. Once you realize that, it's liberating on one hand, right? Because then you can realize that, holy shit, man, it's not just me. Like that when they realize that I'm a little bit nuts sometimes, maybe they'll be okay with them being a little bit nuts, right? And then if you can really, really believe that, or if you can really accept that, I think it's liberating, folks. It's liberating. And if you think I'm crazy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because this is my show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you all. Peace. Lily's, I was going to say thanks for listening as well. Have a great night, folks. I love you. Let's say bye to everybody. Bye. And we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
So get your butt and get in your chair.
Don't eat your nails and don't pull your hair.
We'll talk about chicken or talk about steak.
We'll talk about fat, for goodness sake.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, a very first podcast show.